Alright, so I'm gonna go over like the basics of Blender as if you've never touched the program before. I'm using Blender 4.1. I'm more versed in Blender 4.0 because that's what I have the most experience with, but they're all the same. So this is like your default, render. This is what it looks like in Eevee. I don't like Eevee though. I'm gonna change that to cycles. You can already see how different it is in the lighting. So on the default, this is the sun. You can drag and move this around. It'll change the actual lighting. I don't like using it in cycles though. What I like to do is middle mouse click and drag will move your camera around. If you left click and drag, you can select multiple things. Right clicking will give you a bunch of options for what you've selected. I don't really use that one as much though. What I do every project is I push A, that selects everything. X will ask you to delete it. Another useful thing is H will hide everything. And to get it back, if you push A and then hit Alt H, it'll bring it back. It'll unhide it. But we don't really need that. We do have this. We do have a cube. If you duplicate things, it's Shift D. Now we have two cubes. To edit something, like edit the geometry, make it easier, go back into this view. You select something, if you hit tab, you now go into edit mode and you can change like the shape of it. Each thing has each of these are called nodes. They're nodes. You can also change how you select things. Like this will let me select like a whole edge. Move that around. To move stuff around, it's G. Grab. You can also select entire faces and move those around. A few camera tricks that I picked up on over the years is your number pad is extraordinarily useful. If you select anything and push the period button, it'll auto center to anything that you've selected. And it'll zoom in, it'll make it easier to like get a hold on it. And it goes to the scale of the object. So you never, if you select something real small and you want to like hone in on it and check it out, period is the button to press. 1 puts you along the X and Z axis. The number 3 puts you along the Y and Z axis, and then the number 7 on your number pad will put you in a top-down view. And then you can middle mouse click and pull yourself out of that at any time. Which is also very useful. While you're in edit mode, or any mode really, S is your scale, your G is your grab. If you don't like, if I move this over here, I don't have to lock it into that spot. If I right click, it'll put it back to wherever it came from. It works the same with scale as it does grab. If I want to move something along the X axis specifically after I press G, if I push X on the keyboard, it'll lock it to the X axis. If I push Y on the keyboard, it moves it along the Y axis. And if I push Z, it'll lock it into the Z axis. And another neat thing, if you hit Shift and then press Z, X, or Y, it'll lock it to everything except the letter you press. So like I hit Shift Z there, I hit Shift X here, and then Shift Y brings it along like that. It's very useful. I like it a lot. But let's say we want to make this a light. So we go into the materials tab down here. It already has a material. I think these both have the exact same material. They do. This is every material that's applied to an object in this view here. Because we duplicated it, they both have the same material. So if we make one red, they will both now be red. But we don't see it because we're in the solid viewport. This just shows your geometry. And so if we want to see the material change, we have to choose the material view. You can also choose the render view, but we don't have any lights yet, so it doesn't matter. But you can see that whenever we change one, we change both. We don't want that. So to get rid of a material on an object, we select the object with left click, we hit the minus button, and we can add a new material. And this has nothing. This is just a placeholder, and so we click the new button. But we could also duplicate and assign this material slot a material we already have. We just got out of that hole. We don't want to go back. Click the new button, and I like to use the emissives because it's nice. I'm gonna make it green. I want to change this back to white. It already is white. I think it's already white. Yeah. And we'll set the strength to like 20. And you can see it actually changed how it looks in the material view to try to like show you the emissives. If we go into render view, now we can see that there is a green emissive coming from over here. We can adjust it as needed. The final render it won't look this grainy, I promise you. You will have to tweak a couple things, like setting your resolution in the output whenever you do make a render. You can set the resolution here. I think that's the only thing I ever touch in here. I don't really touch animation, so frame rate doesn't matter to me. But under the render window, we can change how many times the image is rendered whenever we're in the viewport, which is this view here, or the render, which is popped up by clicking render and then render image or animation, whichever you're feeling. But to add new things entirely, the shortcut is Shift A, and there's planes, cubes, circles. You can add curves. Those get a little complex. Don't know what the surface does. Don't know what metaball does. Text is pretty fun to work with. It's just a piece of text. You hit tab to edit it, and it's a hunk of text. And there's a lot of extra things you can do with text, because in here you can set like how it's aligned according to the yellow dot, which is an object's origin. Whenever you edit something, you might at some point go into edit, select all with A, and then grab it and move it. You see how the dot doesn't move? If you ever get into the point where this is the case, because whenever I rotate it now with R, I have it locked to the Z-axis so it'll spin. You see how it doesn't rotate in itself? Like if we do it to the cube here, R and then Z, it spins. It's perfect. It's perfectly aligned. But because this dot isn't inside the object, it's messed up. Spacebar is your search bar. It's your best friend. So if we push spacebar, geometry to origin or origin to geometry will lock the yellow dot perfectly in the middle of the object. It's just, do you want your object to go to the yellow dot, which is the origin, or do you want your origin, the yellow dot, to go into the center of your geometry? That's what origin to geometry does. And then this is geometry to origin. You just see how it snaps. R again to rotate, right click cancels whatever you just tried to do. Left click will lock it into place. There's something else I wanted to throw in here before it becomes like a 50-minute video. Geometry, text. This is text specifically. There's a geometry tab. You can make the extrusion so like it makes the text like have actual depth and it's not just a plain. Easier to look at it from this side. It'll give it depth. The higher this is, the more depth the text has. And there's an offset. It's a little bit more complicated because it goes into the text we're inside the cube. It goes into the taper radius, which is a little bit more complicated. We don't really have to worry about that. You can also change the font in here. A lot of learning Blender is just going in and playing with it. Like you can change the bevel. I don't know what object does, but profile will change like how the edges look. So if we wanted to make it like a sharper or a rounder bevel, we can do that. It's a little bit too much. Right now there's nothing. That's way too much. That's perfect. So you can see how like the bevel will change. It doesn't take effect until we let go of click. So you can see if we have it flat, there's a harsh edge here. But if we round it out, and now it's a little bit more curved. It's a little bit softer on the edges. And this is something that applies to the, I press Shift A to pull this up again, the Bezier curve. Where is it? This has the same geometry tab underneath the data, the two nodes. So what a Bezier does, this is a perfect time to talk about extrusion. If you have a node selected, so we clicked on this, we highlighted it. If we press tab, we go into edit mode. 7 puts us in top-down view. And if we pick one of these nodes and press E, it'll extrude the shape. And so we can make whatever shapes we want with the Bezier curve. And if you notice, there's not really any depth to this. It's just a line. This doesn't even show up on the render view, which I should probably show you how to do now. So we're going to do that now. Shift A pulls up the create mode camera. Where did it put camera in there? Pull camera over here. If you push, while you have the camera selected, press 0 on the number pad. It'll show you what your output will be. This is what will render whenever you click render and render image. And nothing's in frame right now, so we're going to pull this up a little bit. And you can move it while you're in the camera view to make it a little bit easier on yourself. So now if we click render image, it'll open a new window and start rendering the image. It'll take a little bit. You can tweak the sample amount to make it more crisp or less crisp. After this is fully fulfilled, it'll like figure out the smoothing and whatnot. So I'm just for the sake of this, I'm going to change it to like 200. You can just play with this. See the different outcomes. This one's 200. It's rendering really slow. What did I forget to set? It's rendering with my CPU instead of my GPU. This will go way faster now. 33, 160, and now it's done. It's working out the last kink. Yeah, and this was our rendered view. This is the final image based on the sample count we gave it. There's a little bit of artifacting here because of how low the sample count is, but like this looks smooth enough. It looks fine. Emissives will always be pure white with a slight glow around the edge. But you saw we didn't have the Bezier curve. That's because there's no depth to it, because we didn't give it depth. And we just do that with extrusion. And so now there's some extrusion there. Whenever we render it, we can see that there's the little spaghetti monster hidden behind the cube a little bit. You can see the cutoff there. It's a weird spot that I've put this in. But I actually don't know why. Oh wait, it's because it's just a wall. It's a flat wall, and that's why that part was shaded while the rest of it was, and that's just simple geometry or whatever. But if we make the offset, it'll give it not any depth. There's the depth. That's what I'm looking for. And so whenever I do anything text-wise, I use a Bezier curve and I just trace around the text. Like whenever in the background of the SPL network scene, there's the 3D SPL logo. This is how I did that with a Bezier curve, and I just went around and I traced it out, just extruding it, turning it, extruding it, turning it, extruding it, turning it. To make a curve a little bit more harsh, you can scale it with S. And that'll make the curve more drastic, less drastic. If you just wanted a bullet pin, you can scale it to 0. After you press any of the buttons to like move stuff with G or scale it with S or rotate it with R, you can just type on your number pad. I want to rotate this 90 degrees, and now it's 90 degrees rotated. Want to rotate it 90 degrees. It's a cube. It doesn't matter. Rotate it 45 degrees. There's 45 along the X, the Y, the Z axis. Choice is yours. I think that's a good capture of like the basics of it. From here on out, I think this is everything that I learned in the first year, all in a little snippet of 13 minutes. But that's the basics of Blender. Recap a few big things. Just make sure your render engine is cycles. Make sure you're using your GPU. And then this is the only real thing that matters. Make sure that this is somewhere between, I started off with just, 100 to maybe 1,000 samples. The difference between them is a little drastic, because whenever you have more samples, you have more times the image has been rendered to kind of cross over with each other. Like we'll see the artifacting underneath the S here isn't going to be as bad with 1,500 samples versus the 200 we had earlier. But this was a lot of information really fast. Don't feel bad if you forget things. The only reason I remember any of this is because I use it on a bi-weekly basis. Now that the render's done, it's still pretty bad, but like it's not as bad as it once was. But yeah, what I like to do is I will render anything in double the resolution of the final product. Like whenever I was doing like Krook's top drafted player, whenever I did that that image, I rendered at like 8K at like 7,000 samples. And then in GIMP, I just scaled it down because the light diffusion is very pixelated whenever it comes down to the in Blender rendering. I'm trying to pull up the image as like a reference point, but we've made a few posts since then. Where could it be? What is that? Like, this is all in GIMP. Still all in GIMP. This. Whenever I made this render, I made it like 8K, and then I scaled it down. This image is only about, I think it's 1080p wide, 1080p tall. But you see how the light diffusion just is non-existent. There's no pixelation because GIMP handles scaling better than Blender handles light diffusion. And so that was my outcrop there. But I think that's all I got for you. That's everything that I've needed to know in my first year of Blender. What you do from here on out is up to you. A big thing is whenever you make a render, make a plate, make it huge, make it black. Or near black. Because now when we render the image, you'll notice that there's like a whole, like, it feels like an actual scene. There's a floor now, and you can do the same thing with a backdrop. Let me pull the viewport back a little bit, duplicate this, move it against the X, rotate it against the Y 90. And now we have a wall. Actually, I might want to make that a little closer. So I grabbed it with G, moved it with X to lock it to that X-axis. If you're moving stuff around, another neat thing is if you hit shift, it moves it a lot slower. You can see me pressing and not pressing. That's so you can get really precise with some of your camera movement or your adjusting. I missed the scene entirely. Render. F12 is the shortcut for this, but I like clicking the buttons. But now you see it's like an actual scene with a floor and a backdrop, and you can kind of see how strong the emissive is. If we crank this thing to like 500, now let's do something crazy. Let's say 8,000 and see how that looks. It's strong. This doesn't scale with the size of the object. So if everything was, you know, triple the size, the emissive strength has to be triple the number. But because everything's pretty small, 8,000 is absurd. But if we crank this thing all the way up and like slide it to like the back, this thing's huge now, and we render it again. I hope Blender doesn't crash. Save often. Save often. Don't forget to save, and now you don't have anything. All right, maybe it does scale now. Blender 4.0, it didn't scale with the object, so 8,000 would have been like a pebble in the ocean. But maybe they've changed that. But that's all I got for you. That is all the Blender knowledge that I feel is relevant without like giving you information overload, even though it's already a lot. Play with the tabs. Like those little orange squares, like you don't have to grab things to move it. You can give it a very specific number, and if you want to recenter it, there is a shortcut. I don't remember what it is. I don't use it very often. But you can change the scale in the X, Y, and Z. Same if you pressed S. You can scale it X, Y, Z. Works the same with text. But this is slanted, so it's a little weird. There's the Z, there's the X, there's the Y. Bezier curves, they work the same. X, Y, and Z. It scales from the point of origin, the orange dot. So if we pull this off to the side and we scale it, you can see that it moves away and closer to the dot. And that sometimes will mess with your geometry. That sometimes it's fine, but for the most part, avoid that by just typing in origin. Spacebar pulls up the search bar, geometry, origin, etc., etc. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck. Control S saves your project. And yeah, best of luck. That's all I got for you.